Chapter 1. The Betrayal Uncovered. Everything begins to crumble. My name is Diana Hawk. I am 38 years old, the CEO of a thriving tech company, and for years, I believed I had built the perfect life. I worked tirelessly, sacrificing pieces of my happiness to create a future not just for myself, but for the family I loved. I thought they would be there for me, just as I had been for them. But then came the day I learned the truth. The house I bought for my parents, a symbol of everything I had worked for, was no longer just a home. It had become a profit-making venture, rented out behind my back. When I confronted them, expecting understanding, they instead brushed me off, telling me I didn't need to worry, that I was no longer important to them. The shock of it hit me harder than any betrayal I'd ever felt. But that wasn't the worst of it. What I uncovered next made me question everything I'd ever known. A web of lies, deceit, and manipulation spun by the very people I thought I could trust most. In that moment, I realized something painful. I had spent my entire life building a future for a family that never truly saw me. I wasn't just a daughter to them. I was a tool, a means to their own ends. And when I wasn't useful to them anymore, they threw me aside like nothing more than a business transaction. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, and trusted too blindly to let them destroy everything I had built. The battle had just begun, and I was determined to take back what was mine, my home, my company, and most importantly, my future. I walked through the front door, tossing my keys onto the entryway table, the weight of a long day settling on my shoulders. The hum of the city outside had barely faded when I stepped into my home, the space that had always felt like a sanctuary. But tonight, something was different. The silence felt off, like the calm before a storm. I rounded the corner into the living room, expecting to find the usual peace, but instead, I found my parents sitting together on the couch, eyes glued to the television. Their expressions were blank, detached. As I stood there, the stillness between us felt too heavy, too thick. My heart began to race, something inside me telling me that something wasn't right. I took a deep breath before speaking. "Mom, Dad, can we talk for a minute?" They both looked at me then, but it wasn't the look I had hoped for. There was no warmth, no concern, just a distant acknowledgement. "What's up, honey?" my mother asked, her tone flat, almost too casual. I didn't know how to start, but I had to ask. "I just got a call from the property manager. He said the house I bought for you guys is listed on Airbnb. Why didn't you tell me about this?" A brief silence followed my question. My mother's eyes flickered for just a second, then returned to her relaxed, indifferent gaze. My father didn't even flinch. He adjusted his glasses and glanced at the television as if he hadn't heard me. I took a step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice rising slightly. "I spent months finding that house, making sure it was perfect for you both, and now you're renting it out without even telling me?" My mother let out a slow breath, looking at me as if I was the one being unreasonable. "Diana, it's fine. The house is ours now. You don't need to worry about it. We're just trying to make use of the space." The words hit me like a slap across the face. "It's ours now?" I repeated, my voice shaking with disbelief. "You can't just take over the house like that. I bought it for you because I wanted you to be comfortable, to be happy, not as a business venture." My father finally looked up, his face hardening. "You need to calm down. It's just a small thing, nothing to get upset over. We're doing what's best for us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My father, the man that I had looked up to my entire life, the one who had taught me the value of hard work and loyalty, was now dismissing everything I had worked for. I felt a cold rush of anger in my chest. I had given everything for my family, sacrificed so much of my own happiness to make sure they were taken care of, and this is how they repaid me? Best for you? I said, my voice growing more frantic. This has nothing to do with what's best for me. You've turned the house I bought for you into a cash grab without asking me, without even telling me. You've betrayed me, plain and simple. My mother didn't even blink. Diana, don't make a scene. We're just trying to make ends meet like everyone else. You're acting as if we've done something wrong. Something in me snapped at those words. You've done something wrong. You've taken advantage of me, of everything I've done for you. You've turned this into a business deal instead of a home. I turned away before I could say anything else. The house, the one I had worked so hard to make perfect, felt foreign now, like it wasn't mine anymore. The walls seemed to close in on me, and the air felt thick with tension. I was suffocating. I needed answers. I needed to understand why they would do this to me. The silence in the room was suffocating, and I knew I had to leave before I said something I couldn't take back. Fine, I muttered, not bothering to look back at them. I'll figure this out myself. I grabbed my bag and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. The night air hit me like a wave, but it did nothing to calm the storm brewing inside me. I didn't know what I would find, but I was determined to uncover the truth, whatever it took. I walked aimlessly down the street, trying to make sense of everything. The city lights blurred as my mind raced. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that this wasn't just about the house. There had to be more to the story. My family, my own parents, hadn't just been careless. They were hiding something. I pulled out my phone and dialed my lawyer. The ring felt like it stretched for an eternity, but when he picked up, I felt the slight rush of relief I was searching for. Hi, it's Diana Hawk. I need you to check something for me. I just found out that my parents listed the house I bought for them on Airbnb. I need to know if they've done anything else with it. This isn't just a misunderstanding. Something feels off. Don't worry, Diana, my lawyer reassured me. We'll get on it. I'll start looking into everything right away. I hung up the phone, but the unease in my chest only grew. What had they done? What was I missing? How far did this go? I couldn't wait. I had to know. The thought of my family betraying me like this was eating away at me, and I couldn't rest until I uncovered the full truth. This wasn't just about property or money. It was about the trust that had been shattered, the bond that had been broken. I decided to return home to start looking through everything myself. I had to see it all. Every paper, every contract, every detail. As much as it hurt, I couldn't let it slide. They had crossed the line, and now I had to follow the trail wherever it led. When I got back to the house, the weight of the situation hit me again. My hands shook as I pulled out the paperwork I had kept hidden away in my office drawer. I flipped through the papers, each document feeling heavier than the last. And there it was, the signature. My parents had signed an agreement to rent the house without telling me, using my name. I stared at the paper in disbelief. It wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. This was their plan. They had used me, manipulated me, and now I had proof. I took a deep breath and stared at the documents in front of me. I had to act. But first, I needed to know exactly what they had done. I needed everything, every detail. The more I found, the more I realized that this betrayal ran deeper than I could ever have imagined. For now, though, I would hold on to this knowledge. I would plan my next steps carefully. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. They thought they could take advantage of me, but they hadn't seen the real me yet. The one who had built everything on my own. The one who wasn't afraid to fight back. I was done being their pawn. I picked up the phone again, ready to take the next step. This was only the beginning. Chapter 2. Investigating and Planning Revenge. Targeting the Truth. I knew that rushing in blindly would only make things worse. I had to think this through carefully. I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. Not now. This was no longer just about a house. It was about everything I had worked for, everything I believed in. My family had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Victor Reed had always been my sounding board, the one person who knew how to think strategically, how to play the long game. I needed his advice now more than ever. I picked up the phone and dialed his number. "Hey, Victor," I said when he answered. "I need your help." He didn't hesitate. "What's going on?" "I found out my family has been renting out the house I bought for them without telling me, and I'm starting to think there's more to this. They've been hiding things from me." Victor was silent for a moment, probably processing what I was saying. "You want to take legal action?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I need to know everything, every detail. I need to understand exactly what they've been doing. I think they've been manipulating me for a long time." Victor sighed. "I get it, but you can't just rush into this. You need a plan, something strategic. Let me help you gather the information first, then we'll decide how to proceed." "Thanks, Victor," I said, feeling a small sense of relief. "I'll trust you on this. But I need this to move fast. I can't let them think they can just get away with it." "I'll start looking into it right away. Don't make any moves yet. We'll figure out the next steps." We ended the call, and I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone. I had a lot of work to do. I couldn't just sit around waiting for someone else to fix this. I needed to take control. I picked up the phone again, dialing my lawyer this time. The phone rang 3 times before she picked up. "Hi, Diana. What's going on?" Laura's voice was calm and professional as usual. "I need you to look into something for me," I said, getting straight to the point. "My family is renting out the house I bought for them. I need to know if they've done anything else with it, like transferring the deed or making financial changes without my knowledge." "I'll look into it," Laura said. "But I have to ask, why now? What prompted you to ask?" "It's just a gut feeling," I replied. "I've been suspicious for a while now. I need to know if they've been manipulating me. If they've been taking advantage of my trust, I want to know about it." "I'll get back to you as soon as I have something. We'll take it from there." After hanging up, I paced around my office, trying to collect my thoughts. This had gone from a personal betrayal to something much larger. It wasn't just about my family's manipulation. It was about how deep this went. If they had been lying to me about this, what else had they been hiding from me? I couldn't just sit idly by while my world crumbled. I had to act. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't just charge in. I needed to be smart about this. I needed to gather every piece of information first. There was no room for mistakes. I spent the next few days digging into everything I could find: emails, contracts, even old financial reports. It didn't take long before I found something that made my stomach twist. The signatures on the rental agreement, they weren't just casual mistakes. My parents had signed them with Mason Wells, my company's CFO, listed as the primary contact for financial matters. This wasn't just an oversight. It was calculated. I sat back in my chair, staring at the document on my screen. Mason. He had been with the company for years. He was one of the few people I trusted. But now, he was involved in something far more sinister. I grabbed my phone and called Victor again. He picked up on the first ring. "I found something," I said. "Mason. He's involved. He's been working with my parents, manipulating the finances and helping them with the house. Victor paused for a second. That's a serious development. How far does it go? I don't know yet. I rubbed my temples. But this isn't just about the house anymore. If he's been working with them, I need to know everything. I need to know how deep this goes. We'll figure it out, Victor reassured me. I'll keep digging into it. In the meantime, you should focus on getting your legal strategy in place. You need to have your ducks in a row before you make any moves. I know, I'm already working on it. I just don't know who to trust anymore. Don't let them see you sweat. You've got this. I'll get back to you with more information soon. I ended the call and I leaned back in my chair, staring at the piles of documents scattered around me. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deeply my family and Mason had been involved in this web of deceit. It wasn't just about the house they were after. It was about everything I had worked for, everything I believed in. I needed to prepare for the legal battle ahead. The only problem was, the deeper I dug, the more I realized that Mason wasn't just a company asset anymore. He was a key player in a scheme to take everything I had worked for. And I had no idea how long it had been going on. I spent the next few hours going over financial reports, comparing numbers and dates. The more I examined, the clearer it became. Mason had been working with my family to move assets, manipulate contracts, and steer money into accounts that didn't belong to me. He had been part of this from the beginning. I couldn't believe it. I had trusted him, had relied on him to manage the company's finances. But now, I realized that he had been playing a long game, using my trust to line his pockets and help my family take what was mine. As I sat there, the weight of it all finally hit me. My family wasn't just betraying me financially. They were taking advantage of the one thing I had worked my entire life for, my career, my company. And Mason, he was just the tip of the iceberg. I couldn't keep waiting. I had to act, and I had to act fast. But this time, I wasn't going to let my emotions drive me. This time, I was going to outsmart them. They thought they could use me, manipulate me into believing they had my best interest at heart. They were wrong. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. But I needed to prepare for what was coming. I had to be ready. So I took a deep breath and got to work, knowing the battle was just beginning. Chapter 3: Confrontation and Decision. When Family Falls Apart. So I took a deep breath and got to work, knowing the battle was just beginning. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about a house. It was about trust, manipulation, and betrayal on a scale I hadn't even imagined. I had spent days looking over documents, checking accounts, and piecing together the puzzle. Now I needed to confront the people who had been a part of it all, the ones I had trusted most. The confrontation with my parents had been building for days, but today felt different. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me anymore. I had the evidence, and I wasn't afraid to use it. I gathered the papers and stood in front of the mirror staring at my reflection. Who was I anymore? The woman who had sacrificed everything for her family? Or the woman who had finally woken up to the truth? I grabbed my keys and headed out to the house. The drive felt longer than usual, the weight of the coming conversation sitting heavily on my chest. I had played the good daughter, the devoted sister, the one who always put everyone else first. But not anymore. This time, I was going to take control of my own life. When I arrived, I took a deep breath before walking inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I could feel the tension in the air as soon as I stepped through the door. My parents were sitting on the couch as usual, but something was different about the way they looked at me. It wasn't the usual warmth or concern. There was something distant in their eyes. I didn't waste any time. I walked straight up to them, papers in hand. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but tight with emotion. My mother didn't even look up from the book she was reading. "What is it, Diana?" "I found something," I said, laying the papers down on the table between us. "You've been renting out the house I bought for you without telling me. And it's not just that. There's more. I've seen the financial records. I know what you've been doing." For the first time, I saw a flicker of unease in my mother's eyes, but she quickly masked it. "Diana, don't be ridiculous. We're just making the best of things. You're acting like this is some grand betrayal." "This is a grand betrayal," I snapped. "You've taken something I worked so hard for and turned it into a profit-making scheme. You've been using me, using my trust, my hard work to line your own pockets." My father set down his newspaper and looked at me, his expression unreadable. "We didn't ask for your help in the first place. You bought the house for us, but now it's ours to do with as we please." "Yours?" I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat. "That's the problem, isn't it? You don't see me as part of this family anymore. You never have. You think you can just take what you want and I'll be okay with it because I'm the one who's been putting in the work to make this family live comfortably. Well, not anymore. I won't stand by while you take everything I've worked for and throw it away." My mother's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Diana, we don't need you to tell us what to do with our own lives. You've been so busy with your company and your life that you've forgotten about us. We're not children anymore." "Don't act like I'm some stranger to you," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "I've given everything to this family. I built my career around you, around making sure you had what you needed. And now you're telling me I don't matter? That the house I bought, the house I worked for, isn't mine anymore? That it's just another asset for you to take advantage of?" My father leaned back, crossing his arms. "You're overreacting, Diana. This is just a small thing. It's not the end of the world." But it felt like the end of the world to me. The pain in my chest was overwhelming, a mixture of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. The people who were supposed to be my biggest supporters were the ones who had hurt me the most. "No," I said, my voice quieter now, but still firm. "This is not just a small thing. You've been using me, both of you. You don't see me as your daughter anymore. I'm just a tool to help you get what you want." I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I was done with being vulnerable, done with letting them see me weak. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered, my voice breaking slightly. "I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when you've been treating me like I don't matter. I'm not going to be your pawn anymore." There was a long pause. My parents sat there still in silence. It was as if they were waiting for me to change my mind, to give in and go back to being the obedient daughter they wanted me to be. But I couldn't. Not anymore. I took a last look at them, trying to read their expressions, but all I saw was indifference. Indifference to the pain they had caused, to the destruction of the bond we had once shared. And in that moment, I realized that I had to cut ties with them. For my own sanity, for my own future. "Diana," my mother said softly, almost as if she were trying to reach me, "don't be so dramatic. You're overthinking this." I shook my head, feeling the weight of her words, the weight of her betrayal. "No, I'm not. I'm done." I turned and walked out of the room, my heart racing in my chest. I could feel my hand shaking as I grabbed my coat and left the house. My feet barely touched the ground as I walked away, but something in me had shifted. I wasn't going to be their puppet anymore. Outside, the cool night air hit my face, and I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the reality of what had just happened settle in. I had made my decision. There was no going back. I couldn't stay in a family that didn't respect me, that didn't see me as their equal. As I got into my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed my lawyer. I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to act. I had to take legal action. I was going to get back what was rightfully mine, and I wasn't going to let anyone stand in my way. But I also knew this was more than just a legal battle. This was about my life, my future, and my ability to reclaim what had been stolen from me. The real fight had just begun. As the car pulled away from the driveway, I glanced back at the house one last time. I had left my past behind. Now it was time to fight for my future. Chapter 4. Revenge. Strategic and calculated. Now it was time to fight for my future. The battle had gone on long enough. I had everything I needed, the evidence, the legal backing, and the clarity that I wasn't going to let my family get away with betraying me. The next few days blurred together as I met with my lawyer, finalized the strategy, and prepared to expose the truth. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about something bigger. The years of manipulation, deceit, and betrayal that had shaped my life. I walked into the courthouse feeling calm, but underneath the surface, I was ready to tear down the lies that had been built around me. The case was set to begin the next day. I spent the evening going over every piece of evidence one last time, memorizing the details that would dismantle everything my family had done. The courtroom was cold when I walked in the next morning. My heart pounded in my chest as I made my way to the front. The judge looked over his glasses, eyes narrowing as the opposing side began to present their case. They tried to paint me as the unreasonable daughter, someone who had overreacted. But I knew this was my moment. As my lawyer rose to speak, I felt a surge of confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began, "the evidence will show that Diana Hawk did not overreact, nor did she take unreasonable action. She was deceived by the people closest to her. The house she purchased for her parents was turned into a financial asset without her consent. And this is only the beginning of the betrayal." The room fell silent, and I could feel the weight of the moment. My family sat there, faces stone cold, their lawyer glaring at me. I met my mother's eyes for the first time in days, and the anger that had been simmering inside me was now boiling over. She looked at me as though I were the one who had done something wrong. "Diana, this isn't necessary," she said, her voice calm but tight. "We've been good to you, haven't we? This is just a misunderstanding." I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she had hurt me, how everything I had done for her was thrown away without a second thought. But I held my ground, my focus laser sharp. It wasn't about winning the argument with her. It was about winning the war. I glanced over at Mason Wells sitting beside my father. His eyes darted to the floor when he saw me looking at him. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. But then I remembered everything he had done, everything he had helped my family do to me. He was just as guilty as they were. The testimony began, and one by one, the pieces of their manipulation came to light. I saw my family squirm as the truth unfolded. The rental agreement they had signed behind my back, the documents showing how they'd used my name to secure loans and deals, And the worst part, the realization that they had been working with Mason to exploit me, to exploit my trust. I took a deep breath as I sat in the witness stand. It was my turn to speak. I could feel the weight of everyone's gaze on me, but I didn't look away. I knew this was my only chance to make them see the truth. I loved my family, I began, my voice steady but laced with emotion. I did everything for them. I sacrificed my personal life to build a future for all of us. But now I realize that it was never about love. It was about control. They used me, manipulated me, and treated me like I didn't matter. My mother flinched at the words, but I wasn't done. This house, it wasn't just a gift. It was my way of showing them that I cared, that I wanted them to have a better life. But what did they do with it? They turned it into a cash machine without telling me, without my consent. They didn't care about the house. They cared about the money. There was a moment of silence in the courtroom. My family sat there, stunned, as the full scope of their actions hit them. The truth was laid bare, and they could no longer deny it. I trusted my family, I continued, my voice breaking for a second. But I was wrong. I was a tool to them, a means to an end, and I won't let them get away with it. The room was thick with tension as the defense tried to dismiss my accusations. But I knew I had already won. The evidence spoke for itself. The documents, the emails, the financial records, they all pointed to the same conclusion. My family had used me, manipulated me, and exploited my hard work. But it wasn't just about the house. It wasn't just about the money. It was about trust. And I trusted them. I gave everything to them, only to be thrown aside when they saw an opportunity for personal gain. The moment came when the judge turned to face my family. It is clear from the evidence that Diana Hawk has been wronged by those who were supposed to be her support system. The actions of the defendants have not only harmed Diana financially, but emotionally as well. The court will now consider the appropriate ruling. I could feel my heart racing, but it wasn't fear. It was vindication. My family had no choice but to face the consequences of their actions. And there, in that moment, I realized that I had won. Not just the case, but my own freedom. As the courtroom session came to an end, I stood up, feeling a sense of release. I had done what I needed to do. My parents and Mason could no longer hide their deceit, and the truth was out in the open. But even as I felt a sense of satisfaction, there was a part of me that still hurt. It wasn't just about the legal victory. It was the fact that my family had chosen money over me. That would never change. The betrayal was deep, and the scar would remain. I walked out of the courtroom feeling the weight of everything that had happened. The battle wasn't over yet. There was still the matter of the company, of regaining full control and of rebuilding my life. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was on the right path. As I got into my car, I looked at the papers one more time. The evidence was clear, the case was won, and the truth had finally been exposed. There was no turning back now. But something inside me was still uncertain. The legal battle was won, but the real fight was far from over. The people I had trusted most were gone, and I was left to figure out what came next. All I knew was that I wouldn't let them tear me down. I would rebuild, and I would do it on my own terms. And for the first time, I felt like I was finally free.
Chapter 5: Resurrection, Forgiveness, and the Future. And for the first time, I felt like I was finally free. The weight of the past few months, of the betrayal and the courtroom battles, began to lift. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but I knew now that the only way forward was to let go of the anger, the hurt, and the ties that had kept me bound to my family. I had spent so much time blaming them for everything that had gone wrong in my life, but now I understood that I was the one who needed to forgive. Not them, because they weren't sorry, but myself. I had allowed their manipulation and deceit to control me for too long, and I was done with it. I was done being their pawn, done letting them dictate my happiness. I sat at my desk that evening, the soft glow of my office light casting shadows on the walls, and for the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about the next legal step or the next confrontation. I wasn't thinking about my family at all. Instead, I was thinking about me, about what I needed to do to rebuild my life from the ground up. The thought didn't scare me anymore. It felt right. I had built my company from the ground up. I had created something from nothing, and I was capable of doing it again. This time, though, it would be on my terms. I wasn't going to let anyone, especially my family, define who I was or what I could achieve. They had tried to break me, but in the process, they had unknowingly shown me my own strength. I glanced at the framed picture on my desk, the one from the day I signed the papers to buy my first office space. I had worked so hard to get to where I was. I had sacrificed friendships, relationships, and pieces of my own happiness to make sure my business thrived. But now I knew what really mattered. It wasn't the house or the money or even the success I had built. It was my peace of mind, my independence, my ability to make decisions for myself without anyone else's interference. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decisions settling in. I had to cut ties with my family for good. They had made their choices, and so had I. I wasn't going to keep going back, hoping that things would somehow change. They had betrayed me too many times, and I couldn't keep allowing them to break my heart. But the hardest part wasn't making that decision. It was telling them. It was 1 week later when I picked up the phone. I knew I had to make the call. There would be no closure unless I confronted them one last time, no matter how difficult it was. I dialed the number, and it only rang once before my mother picked up. "Diana," she said, her voice as cold as it had been when we last spoke. "What is it?" "Mom, we need to talk," I said, my voice calm but firm. "This is the last time I'm going to speak to you. I've thought a lot about everything, and I've made my decision." There was a pause on the other end, but I didn't falter. "I'm done with this. I'm done with you. I've spent years trying to make things work, trying to be the daughter you wanted, but all you've ever done is take from me. You've taken my time, my energy, my trust, and I can't do it anymore." "I don't understand what you're saying, Diana," she replied, her voice shaky now, not from emotion, but from the realization that I wasn't backing down. "I'm saying that I'm walking away. I'm cutting all ties. I can't keep holding on to a family that doesn't care about me. You've shown me who you really are, and I don't want to be part of it anymore. I've made my own life now, and it doesn't include you." I could hear her breathing on the other end. The words she wanted to say stuck in her throat. I wasn't going to give her the chance to manipulate me again. "I'm sorry," I said, though I didn't really mean it. "I'm sorry that it had to come to this, but it's over. I won't be in touch again. I'm moving on. Goodbye." I hung up the phone before I could hear her response. It wasn't out of anger, but because I needed to feel in control. I needed to know that I was no longer bound by the past, no longer caught in the web of lies and deceit they had woven around me. That evening, I sat at my desk again, feeling a sense of calm wash over me. The phone call had been difficult, but necessary. There was no going back now. I had chosen my own path, and I was no longer going to be shackled by the expectations and manipulations of my family. I focused on my work the next few days, not in an attempt to distract myself, but because I knew that my work was my future. I had spent so many years building this company, this dream, and now it was time to take it to the next level. I was no longer tied down by the past, and I was ready to create the future I deserved. Every decision I made now was mine. No one else could take that from me. No one else could tell me what to do or how to live. And as I worked late into the night, making plans and strategies for the next phase of my company, I realized something important. My happiness wasn't defined by my family's approval. It never had been. It had always been about me, about what I wanted for myself and the life I wanted to create. As I walked out of the office that night, the city lights sparkling around me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. I was finally free, not just from my family's control, but from the fear that had held me back for so long. I had fought for my future, and now I was living it. As I looked toward the future, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let anything or anyone stand in my way. The world was mine to conquer, and I would do it on my own terms. And with that, I walked into my new life, ready for whatever came next.